What is up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Breathe in Air podcast, where everyday action meets extraordinary mindset. Today, we have a very special guest. He spent multiple years in the NFL. He is the author of Eben Flow and the host of the Eben Flow podcast. And when you look up this guy on the internet, it'll say football player, but this guy is a whole lot more than that. And very thankful to have you on the show, Eben Britton.
Great to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm super excited to dive into this, but I want to start, you're in California, John Burroughs High School, 15 years old. It's a fall day, maybe 65 degrees outside. What is going on in Eben's mind at that time in life?
Wow, what a place to start. 15-year-old Eb playing football. So much coming of age in the Valley, San Fernando Valley in California, Los Angeles. Stepping into definitely, 15. I was probably sophomore year of high school. Really found my anchor in football, a game that I wanted to play for a long time. Mom would never let me play. She was always worried I'd get hurt for good reason, and finally my freshman year of high school helped, with the help of my dad, convinced her to let me play. I was always one of the biggest kids in my class, but to take that leap into football, I think was maybe scary for her, but it became, she's a bigger football fan than I am now. But it was always something I felt called to do. In my book, I talk about it. I don't know if you've read that, but talk a little bit about that seed being planted when I was like 7 or 8 years old at my grandparents' house in Connecticut. And so I'm 15, I'm playing football. I'm a sophomore on varsity, starting, dominating, finding my way through this chaotic sport that I had fallen in love with. There was this outlet for me to get all the rage, the angst, the confusion of being a kid who grew up in the family atmosphere of alcoholism. My parents got divorced when I was 7. My mom moved my brother and I to Los Angeles from Brooklyn, New York when I was 10. So at that point, 15 years old, I developed some friendships that still are with me to this day. I found a true calling, at least for the moment, to establish the foundation of who I was destined to be in football. And my eye was on the prize, man. Like everything I did, how I carried myself, how I slept, how I lived, how I walked, how I breathed, was all in alignment with achieving this dream of playing in the NFL. And sophomore year on varsity, I have a stellar season. I've always been a little bit of a romantic, so I'm sure there was a girl or a handful of girls that I was interested in. I was not very, I would definitely not call myself a player at all in high school. I was not comfortable around girls, had no idea how to talk to girls. In my mind, it was all about, how do I get a girl to be my girlfriend?
Yeah.
And outside of that, I just kept playing football and working really hard. And I felt very blessed. Looking back, I feel very blessed that I was at that age and I had something to put all my heart and focus and energy into, which was football. And I was physically gifted. I am physically gifted. And I put it all to use. And I put myself to the test over and over again. I've been reminded of this story because I'm going through some interesting family dynamics, but going into my senior year of football, and I don't want anybody to misconceive me telling the story of my life in any way possible, any way, shape, or form. But going into my senior year of football, training camp was so fucking hard and intense.
Mm-hmm.
And I had already committed to the University of Arizona. I had a laundry list of scholarship offers to schools all around the country, the whole Pac-10, Oklahoma, Tennessee, all these schools. And I was so close. I was on the hair's edge of quitting football going into my senior year of football. It was so fucking hard. I would wake up in the morning crying, 5 o'clock in the morning, crying tears because I knew the bloodbath I was about to walk into.
Yeah.
And my dad drove from downtown LA with a cooler full of Gatorades and waters and drove me around in between practices and just talked to me. And he said, Ed, you just got to stick it out, man. This is we all go through difficult times. You're on the verge of achieving something that so many people dream of. You have an incredible opportunity in front of you. Just stick with it. Give it everything you have. And it's going to pay off. And I listened to him and I did it and I just kept going. And then, all the stuff. But I say that for a number of reasons. One, to clear the slate of any misconceptions of me thinking or trying to, if my message in any way can be taken as me attempting to paint myself into some light as some
right
unmarked hero or shining beacon of excellence and strength and courage. No, not at all. This has been a very long process to get here, where I've experienced an immense amount of pain and suffering, seen the fruits of working through that, working against difficulty and challenge, working through difficulty and challenge, and be able to look myself in the mirror and say, I respect you, I honor you, I acknowledge you as a man, as the king of your life, And man, when you're chasing your destiny or your dream or some vision of your life, is what happens. The universe is going to test you always. And it will continue to, even when you get to the place where you think you've achieved it all and made it through the smoke.
Yeah.
There's still going to be tests and challenges and adversity. And I'm currently experiencing them right now.
We always are.
Exactly, dude. Exactly.
You mentioned there, your dad kind of driving you around and giving you that pick me up, but you also mentioned the hardships and the pain that all of us have gone through early on in life. And sometimes if we don't get to the root of those problems, I feel like it comes up a lot of times in life, whether it's self-limiting beliefs, things that we're constantly telling ourselves. So how, through your journey, have you been able to maybe take some of those self-limiting beliefs or those things that you didn't like so much about early childhood and able to, let go of them and become the person you are today?
It's a great question, man. Such a good question. I don't know if we have enough time.
We can do the cliff notes.
No, it's good. It's really good. It sparks a lot of thought and ideation. It's interesting how life is this river that just keeps going. And in that, because of everything you just mentioned, this matrix, this belief matrix that we view our lives through, which is the result of a whole lot of programming and conditioning that we weren't necessarily a part of creating.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we're children, we're so pure and we're so clean, yet we're very vulnerable to other people's ideas, authority figures' ideas, things that we're told from our family, our parents, our siblings, our school system,
Right.
every teacher we've ever come into contact with, every coach, etc. And so we find ourselves at this place inevitably in life where we are essentially, for lack of a better term, we find ourselves the victim of our belief matrix. It's their fault. It's because of this. I can't because of that. All these different things that we tell ourselves, which are nothing more than illusions created by this false identity that we've come to embody. The wonderful part is, because our subconscious is so suggestible, there are infinite things that we can partake in, that we come into contact with as a grace of God, the universe, every single day, that give us maybe just a little pinprick of light, that take us back into the heart of the truth of who we are, or give us some glimpse of what's actually possible. And it's one of the reasons we love Greek mythology, and we love sports and our heroes and the legends of athletes and warriors and soldiers and teachers who have come before us, because they show us this glimpse of what's possible. The trick is to realize that they were all you. They are all you. Every one of them. Michael Jordan to the Dalai Lama. Every one of them is you, because they started as something outside the Dalai Lama. Perhaps he incarnated in and was told, from the get-go, he knew he was this enlightened being. But outside of that, we all start in this place where we have totally forgotten who we are. And we have an opportunity to create our life from the foundation up. And sometimes it looks like shit, and sometimes it's really sketchy. But the undeniable truth is that if you find something you really love to do, that makes your heart fucking sing, that lights you up inside, and then you put a whole lot of work into it and develop it, and that's to me, that's the secret ingredient, because we are physical beings and we live in this physical paradigm. So it's about getting into action. Our mind, we get these insights, these inspirations, these thoughts come in about things to do, who we are, what we can do, what's possible. And then it takes the next step is getting into fucking action to realize that in your physical reality. And we all have that ability. And for me, when, you ask that question, there's so many things. I mean, football was this really powerful, tangible experience of visualizing this destiny path for myself of playing in the NFL, and then taking the things that were coming into my mind and putting it into action, putting my body into action, and achieving this goal. Now, through the process of that, because I had a lot to prove to the world and myself about who I was and what I was worth, and to legitimize myself as a human being, I destroyed myself through the process of my football career. But that was perfect, because that's laid the foundation for who I am now, and what I'm actually supposed to do with my life, which is to say, this is when you have an idea of where the edge is of what's possible, you can do anything. And you can see it, and you can put those steps into place to achieve whatever it is you want to achieve. And in that, there's been so many different practices, meditation, plant medicine, deep body work, healing, music. How many times do you hear some song and it just takes you somewhere that it lifts your soul?
First time you hear a good song, you're just like, Woo, let's go.
Right. And it just, it shows you the light of yourself. You know that feeling when you hear that song, it just resonates in your cells and you listen to it over and over again.
Yeah.
And it's this sensation of lifting you into the fucking cosmos. And it maybe at the time you're not even sure what's happening, but looking back, those were all moments that showed me what was possible in my life.
Yeah.
Because my reality now, where I'm at, I didn't even know life could be as good as it is now.
Yeah.
I didn't know it. I thought it had to be really hard and dark, and it had to be a fight the whole way through. It's taken me a long time to realize that's not the case.
Right.
You know, that doesn't mean it doesn't still, I don't confront serious fucking challenges that are maybe even more difficult than ones I've ever experienced before. But as far as my relationship to it all, didn't know it was possible.
Yeah. A lot of what you said there, just one word keeps coming back to me, and that's awareness. And for me, that awareness has been a life changer, whether it's this exact same experience, but the way that I see life now changes that whole experience into something totally new, into a totally different reality. My perceptions changed, the way that I could feel my body and hear my thoughts and see the world. Like awareness, something that we have to build on every day. But when you have that kind of moment where it switches for you, I feel like you are stepping into a whole new world. So was there ever a time for you where that awareness just kind of clicked, or was it something that started happening and changing for you over time?
For me, it's definitely been a process. I have more awareness today than I did a month ago,
Yeah.
6 months ago, 5 years ago. And each step along the way there, I had a little bit more awareness than I did the day before. There have definitely been experiences, moments that have brought me into greater levels of awareness faster.
Right.
I think my football career, for one, the entire thing was a massive experience in leveling up of awareness in what the physical body can do, the relationship of the physical body and the mind, the relationship of the heart, soul, and body as it pertains to taking your physical self to the outer limits of what you think of what your mind believes is possible, how much pain and suffering you can endure on a physical and mental level, how much stress you can endure, business. Not only that, but the psychology of business, particularly on a corporate level, when there's this giant machine that you're a part of, and then you put human beings in there, and things happen, and see how the human relationships attempt to participate in this greater structure machine of fucking this greater economic machine.
Right. Yeah.
That's essentially built on performance. And when human bodies start to break down, what happens to those relationships?
Right.
And the reality therein. So all of that was this tremendous lesson in coming aware of all of these different things. Also, from my own individual experience and what I see over and over again in guys in the football community, of the NFL in particular, it attracts very damaged people because it takes being somewhat of a psychopath to put yourself on the field over and over again.
Right.
You have a vendetta. against someone else and yourself, whether you know it or not. You've got a vendetta to settle with the world when you step on the field or you play a sport like football or fighting or whatever it is, until you don't. And that's when you see the masters emerge, the Tom Brady's, the offensive linemen who played 20 plus years, my teammate Brad Meester. But that takes a very, because for me, part of the mechanism of how I was successful in football had very much to do with my unhealed trauma. And those guys that end up lasting for 10 plus years, they're not doing what I was doing, at least from the outside in looking in. They've managed to make it about something else. For me, it was about proving myself to myself and the world. But you can't do that and sustain it because you burn out. The engine fucking blows out.
Yeah.
Your body just blows out. It was what happened to me. You know, your body fucking blows out. So it has to become about something else. Why was I saying that?
Awareness.
Yeah, so you know, football in particular, it attracts guys who have a lot of trauma, childhood trauma, physical abuse, maybe sexual abuse, emotional abuse on some level. And so when you come into the game of football, you get to put all of that way the fuck out there. You don't have to think about it. You're not that person. You've just created a new identity for yourself as this football warrior, this superstar athlete. So you never have to look at that. But then when you come out of football and you don't have this blanket to cover it all up, and you have to really look at who you are, families completely fall apart. You know, because now here you are, you're still that terrified 12-year-old, 13-year-old boy, but now you've got a wife and a child, multiple children, you've got a house, you've got bills, you've just come through this game that you've attached your entire life to, your entire self to, sense of self to. Now that's gone. Now what are you going to do? Well, you got to get clear with who that is in the mirror right there.
Yeah. That's a huge transformation. I know I personally went through that transformation myself, and I know a lot of athletes do. It was that moment of looking yourself in the mirror, and now that one thing that you identified yourself with is gone, you really have to do some deep inner work, and there's a lot of things that come with that.
Oh yeah. And you do it or you don't. And if you don't, it's a really dark hole.
Yeah.
The dark hole. I see it happen. I hear the stories. It's tragic. It's a dark hole. That's a dead end. You know?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think for the most of the common public that watches the game and enjoys it and hasn't necessarily been a part of it, maybe don't understand a lot of the substance abuse that can come with being a collegiate or NFL football player, especially in the NFL when, you know, there's a lot on the line. I think you yourself had, you know, situations where, you know, you had substance use with, whether it was Adderall, you know, you were in the Take Your Pills documentary for Netflix, talked about that, and then going through numerous injuries. I mean, I've had multiple ACLs and given highly addictive opioids. And, you know, I know a lot of guys that are in the league and that have played and that, you know, have problems outside of the league once they get done with the game. So what was your personal experience like with that? And do you see a lot of problems with that transformation from the medical community itself, right? Do you see a lot of problems with that when guys come out of the league or try and transition into normal life?
Oh, it's a huge problem. It's a huge problem. Yeah, I mean, football, I can only speak from my experience in professional football. So that's all I've played, but
Right.
I'm sure or I wouldn't be surprised if it was across the board. because of the nature of sports.
Right.
On a professional level, it's such high achievers. I mean, even collegiately, it's high achieving people who are striving to validate themselves through their work, which is what all industries run on,
Right.
And with that comes a high level of stress, which majority of the time is going to lead to a high instance of substance use, which will majority of the time result in substance abuse.
Yep.
A lot of alcohol. There's a lot of alcoholism in football. A lot of guys drinking a lot of alcohol, a lot of pills. It's very much prescription anti-inflammatories are a very common remedy for the daily grind.
Yeah.
Just getting on a daily protocol of taking prescription anti-inflammatory like Cataflam, Indocin, Celebrex. I don't know how it is today. Maybe they're a little bit more aware, but the pain, the speed, the amount of just aches and pains aside from full-blown season-ending injuries or
Right.
lingering injuries is not gone anywhere. And if you're a guy who's playing football and you're getting paid to play at your highest level possible, and you wake up every day and your fucking big toes to the top of your head hurt, you're going to do whatever it takes to get on the field to go and compete, because you don't want to get your ass kicked by a guy who's taking some shit to make himself feel better, and you're out there sore as fuck just trying to survive.
Right.
That's not really an option. So the prevalence of pharmaceuticals is super high. Prescription anti-inflammatories, opiates, probably I would hope to a lesser degree the opiates, just with the information we have of how highly addictive they are. There's been very real issues, very real and out in the open issues, guys struggling really badly, addicted to opiates, Vicodin, Percocet, Oxycontin, all the stuff.
Yep.
This stuff wreaks havoc on people's lives, their physical health, mental and emotional well-being. All of it is just completely destroyed through these pharmaceuticals. And once again, this is all the result of essentially people who are overcoming immense amounts of adversity, doing everything they can to survive and to stay in the game and to be at their best. Because there is no option for taking it easy or giving yourself a rest. You don't have enough time to rest.
Yep.
If you're trying to start next Sunday and it's Tuesday and you've got a bad knee, you're going to do whatever it takes to make sure you're on the field on Sunday.
Yep. Absolutely.
Even though you need 3 weeks of doing nothing just to get your knee to a place where you can walk on it.
Right.
And so it's a very real thing. And it's one of the reasons I've been so vocal about cannabis in particular as a very important alternative to pharmaceutical drugs that are given to aid in the protection of the brain. Federal government has a patent on cannabinoids. Patent 6,630,507. Cannabinoids as neuroprotectants and antioxidants. They've seen through scientific research that the chemical compounds found in the cannabis plant can actually help protect the brain cells from traumatic injury, and they can help the brain heal once traumatic brain injury has occurred, which is a concussion, which is the number one issue facing the NFL as far as PR goes.
Yep.
It was interesting to me how maybe 3 years ago, I've been out of the league since 2014, and about 3-4 years ago, they started having these basic their ads. It seems as though they're doing these public service announcements, sort of silently talking about the helmet technology and how much it's improved and what they're doing for player safety and all this stuff. And it was interesting to me because it doesn't matter what fucking helmet you put on the head. The brain sits in a floating skull filled with fluid. And when a collision occurs, if it's at the precise angle, the brain hits the side of the skull and damage occurs, and this chemical cascade happens, which is essentially what is leading to CTE, or chronic traumatic encephalopathy, this neurodegenerative disease, which is akin to dementia and Alzheimer's. And guys mid-30s, early 40s are being diagnosed with it all the time who played football, from high school to the NFL. And so whatever you want to do with the helmets, it doesn't really matter. The physical structure of the brain and the body itself and the nature of the game of football, it creates an atmosphere where this is going to happen. So you better be thinking about some actual medicinal remedies to this thing. And cannabis seems to be the only thing on the planet that actually helps protect the brain from damage, as far as we know, to the degree that is necessary for what a football player deals with, or any combat contact athlete deals with.
Yeah, it's definitely our head's definitely not meant to rattle like that. There's no doubt. I mean, just watching back games and stuff, and just seeing not even helmet to helmet contact, but getting hit, falling down, whiplash, head on the turf. I mean, that's those sometimes look worse than some of the helmet to helmet collisions. So it's the nature of the game, like you said, but I think it is important to be proactive and understand. I feel like there has been a little bit of an awakening and realization to pharmaceuticals and trying to find alternative remedies prior to turning to something that can cause a domino effect of other issues down the line.
I think they're starting to, for sure, man. I think there's been a lot of light shed on all this stuff. And that's the really important thing, and why it's so important for us to share our experiences, going back to the beginning of this whole conversation, as far as what I feel like my life purpose is, to share my experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because only then can we start to find solutions for how to work through things or make systems better, make this a more sustainable environment for people, whatever they do. You know?
Exactly. You mentioned among athletes.
Hold on one sec, Mason. I want to get my charger so my computer doesn't die.
Yeah. So you had mentioned with athletes, but I think really anyone that's listening this far into the podcast and that has a thirst for knowledge is an ambitious person, right? And there's something that I've struggled with. I know a lot of people probably feel similar in this space, but balancing ambition and looking towards the future and wanting to have these goals and aspirations, but also wanting to be present in this moment, the only moment that actually matters, that's actually real, right? Because the future is not real. The past is gone and we can't go back. And so all these things that we make up in our head all the time, it's the saying of 90% of the things you worry about don't actually ever happen. So it's like, how do we balance that ambition of wanting to be able to plan and make these actionable steps and forward to our goals, but being present here in the moment, actually enjoying the journey of it all?
Good question, dude. I think it's really valuable to ask yourself the question when you're on this journey of achieving your dreams and living in your highest greatness or living in your highest self. It's really important to ask the question, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Why is this so important to me? And for me, the reason being, if your intentions are out of alignment with your heart, your soul destiny, your soul purpose on this planet, the thing's not really going to go anywhere anyway.
Yeah.
The universe has plans for you, dude. The universe has plans for you. It always has. And when the ego, the little that we all create in order to function in this world that we spring into out of our mother's womb, it has ideas about these things, but it's not really anchored to anything true. The mind, or the head really, because the mind is this infinite beyond categorization tool that we have access to. The mind is infinite, it's eternal, it's beyond. You can do incredible things with the mind. It's a magnificent architect of our lives. But the head, the small self, however you want to break that up, whatever you want to, however you want to discern the difference.
Yeah.
There is a big difference. Because for me, the little self believed that I had to play football to prove my worth to the world, essentially to myself. And there was never enough proving done. I couldn't be badass enough. I couldn't fucking pancake enough guys. I couldn't grade out at 100% enough to ever satisfy that idea. And I fucking ran myself into the ground in football. And I started doing the same thing in my life after football. And even in asking the questions of, what do I really love? What am I really good at? What do I really enjoy doing? I love talking to people. I love gaining knowledge. I love sharing with people. Okay, great. Wow, this new thing, podcast. This is a reality. I can start a podcast. So I started a podcast. Love it. I love it. I love the format. I love talking. I love working out ideas and sharing things and all of this stuff, sharing my experience, hearing your experience, connecting. I love that. But then that took over as this new ego trip of, I got to keep the podcast going. How am I going to make money doing the podcast? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? Oh, now, people want to pay me to coach them, to show them the way, to teach them how to do things. And I started running myself ragged there too. I can't schedule enough phone calls. I can't take enough business calls. I can't coach enough people. I don't have enough time in the day to get all the sponsorships from the pod. Literally burn myself out on all that stuff. And somewhere in there, I'm following this line, this thread okay, so the universe, so I'm in the right place because the universe keeps like bringing me new opportunities, and it's growing and it's expanding and there's newness. But all the while, it's my relationship to the whole thing of trying to achieve and trying to make myself worth something or trying to prove myself and all this stuff. And that's that ambition. And man, I've gotten to this place, dude, where I'm looking at myself and I'm saying, I don't know if I have any ambition anymore.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Here's what I will say, though, is that I've taken it so far down to zero that the things that I'm really meant to be doing are just coming right into my sphere. And I want to do those things.
Yeah.
But the ambition has left the building. I'm not walking around. I've been thinking this thing. I used to be 90% effort, 10% rest, maybe 98% effort. I'll spend 3 hours in the weight room.
Yeah, me too.
I'll exercise all day. Meanwhile, like smoke weed, do mushrooms, literally just take myself out there all fucking day, come home exhausted.
Yeah.
Physically, mentally, emotionally, because I'm just like constantly like putting myself through the ringer, and then sleep. That's my rest. And I did that for a long time, dude. Long time. Did that. A lot of that. Probably 34 years, 33 years.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to be 35 in a couple weeks. But now I've completely rearranged myself to such an extent. I'm more 60% rest and recovery, 40% effort. And it's really become about taking care of myself, listening to myself, getting quiet. Letting the mind run, the mind does its thing. Fuck, Eb, we got to make money. Fuck. How are we going to do it? What are we going to do? We're a failure. What are we doing with our lives? And meanwhile, I'm making more money than I've made in the last 6 years.
Yep.
I got a new apartment. This morning, I went to the fucking hot tub at the apartment, got in the hot tub the first thing in the morning after taking my dog for a walk, and then did yoga in the sun. And I was laughing to myself like, man, when I was a kid, I fucking dreamed of a life like this.
Yeah.
And that's in the midst of watching my mind or my head do that thing and not responding to it.
Mm.
Because I have a job. I go and I do corporate wellness coaching out in Venice. Twice a week, I go out there. I take all the employees through yoga and breath work and talk with them, spend time with the people one-on-one as well. Help let them unravel whatever thing they're dealing with personally or professionally. I love that. I love it. And it's great. And I do that. And I do events and I do this stuff. But I'm not fucking trying to prove myself anymore. And the ambition to me, and it's a fine line, right? Because I believe that capitalism is a fucking beautiful thing. It's a gift.
Right.
It's one of the gifts of the Western world, truly.
Yeah.
Communism doesn't work. Shit doesn't work. You don't want that life, dude.
No,
you don't want that life. You want the life of free enterprise.
Yes.
Where you can do whatever the fuck your soul compels you to do in order to sustain yourself. You want that life. Trust me. And I believe you can do both. You can fulfill your soul and provide for yourself and your family. I'm doing it. You know, I talk a lot about a lot of like clips. Funny enough, feels like 50% of my clips are about quitting your job and going and doing your thing. And I handful of people are fucking cheering me on, saying, hell yeah, dude, I just did that. I did that 3 years ago. It's the best thing I ever did. Never looked back. And then inevitably there are the people going, yeah, but I have bills to pay. And my sensation inside is, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
No one's free.
We all do. Yeah.
But if you find yourself so miserable, you make a choice. I think we need fucking people to run the cities. We need people to fucking clean up the garbage. We need people to fucking do all these things. We need it.
Yeah.
If we're this tribe of humanity, there's a position and a role for every single person. We're interconnected, we're interlinked, and everyone has a role. And it's all important. I'm not saying that the fucking, like, there's any job too small.
Yeah.
But you know the feeling if you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing. My comments are not about you're not doing enough at all. You can be totally content and fulfilled doing X because your soul is filled somewhere throughout that process. It's not about the money. It's not about the sitting at the desk. It's not about any of that. Doesn't matter what you do. Pick up trash, sit at a desk, teach yoga, whatever the fuck you're going to do.
Yeah.
Make sure you're fucking just, it's about listening to yourself at the end of the day and not abandoning yourself over and over again for some external thing. And that's really the conversation, I think. The conversation is we've found ourselves in a society that tells you what's right, what's wrong, what's success, what's failure. And you go throughout your life creating this illusion around yourself of what that is, only to find yourself dissatisfied because all the things you were told were going to be the answer are revealing themselves to not be the answer. And that's okay. That's totally okay. Yes, and you have an option.
Yep.
You always do, you always have. So your question about ambition, and because to me they're interlinked. The more present you become, the less ambition you need.
Wow.
Because you're aligned with what the fuck you're actually supposed to be doing. You align yourself slowly but surely. The more presence you cultivate with where you're really supposed to be in your truth. And then you don't need ambition because you're just compelled. You're compelled by God, the universe, by spirit, by something beyond your understanding to just do things.
Yeah.
You're not thinking, oh, I got to go do this. I got to go do that. It's just, I'm doing it. I don't even think about it. There's no fret. There's no concern. It just happens. Oh, here I am. I'm teaching yoga again. Oh, weird. Coming out of football, if you told me I was going to find my love and my heart and my soul again, teaching yoga and breath work, I would have been like, what? No, dude. Like, no fucking way. That's ridiculous. Yeah, maybe like on the weekends, but not as the bulk of what I enjoy doing.
Right.
But the more present you become, the less need there is for ambition, because it's just you're compelled by something greater than you into action.
What role, if any, does the ego play in that equation? Is there positives for ego, or is ego something that we should totally relinquish?
It's a great question. It's a great question. I don't think you can't really, unless you become a monk and live in a fucking cave in a mountain or a temple somewhere. You never really get to that place of being able to relinquish the ego. I think the ego is important. It ties the soul to the physical body, as
Yeah.
someone wiser than me has said. Well, I don't know. I can't quote exactly, but I know that's been said before. For instance, Mason, we couldn't really have a conversation if there wasn't any ego.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even be able to get on the computer.
You would just be like,
I'd just be floating around like
the crisscross just
just
floating.
I'm the air. I'm the fucking tree, like I don't, there's nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
There is no experience to be shared because it's all just experience happening constantly. So yeah, I think ego is a really delightful thing. And dude, I love it.
Yeah.
I love the dance. I love doing this. I love my family. I love my friends. I love people. I love connecting. I love the adventure of life. It's fucking a miracle, dude.
Yeah.
It's a fucking miracle that we're here. And what a profound experience to have. And we get to do it together.
Yeah.
Guaranteed, I've spent past lives fucking meditating in the mountaintop and gotten whatever I needed there.
Mm-hmm.
And I've thought to myself in some of the most chaotic times of my life, I'm just going to go into the woods and fucking meditate, dude.
Yeah. I have too.
I could do that. We could do that. But that's not where I'm called. I really enjoy this thing. I enjoy the drama. I enjoy the dance. I enjoy the figuring it out. I enjoy the unraveling, the unfolding of this experience, seeing where it goes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's when it becomes inhibitory, when it becomes a blockage, when it becomes a restriction, just let your awareness show you that.
Yeah.
And course correct. When your ego starts creating pain and suffering in your life, you have an option. There is pain and suffering that occurs, and there's no spiritual bypassing that. But sometimes your identity, your belief about who you are and what's right and what's wrong literally causes you pain and suffering. And that's not something you need to hold on to.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. When I think back about, kind of the things that I miss the most about ball, it would obviously be, the relationships in the locker room and the ride, the bus rides, the travel and those memories. And then of course, game day. But one of the biggest things to me was flow state, thinking back, you get into that, you cross those lines and everything else fades away. Nothing else in the world exists except, doing your job and being with those guys and accomplishing that goal. And it's a beautiful feeling. But as I got out of ball, and I'm sure you felt something similar to this, I started trying to figure out, where else can this flow state come from and how can I cultivate it in my life? What have been some of the biggest ways for you to create that state now that, we don't put the pads on anymore?
Meditation, breath work, yoga, playing, going to the beach or the park with my brother, throwing a football around, spending time with my daughter, getting out into nature.
Yeah.
I totally agree. That's one of the really miraculous aspects of sports, is that it's such a straight line into that flow state experience.
Yeah, it really is.
For me, I mean, I learned about God through my body. I experienced the existence of God through my physical body, through the game of football,
Wow.
because of exactly what you said. Experiencing that sense of something greater than yourself moving through you.
Hmm.
The physical body is a straight line into the spiritual.
Absolutely. When you were having this transformation to, coming out of constantly getting beat up and, transitioning into normal life, that training aspect is so different from what we eat to how we train to how we recover, etc. So you had a massive transformation physically. I mean, you look great right now. Veins popping out. We're looking slim and trim. I mean, you were playing at what, 310, 315?
Yeah, it was like 3:30 when I left the Bears.
Sheesh, 330. So, I mean, with that transformation, what was that like in terms of diet, in terms of your training? Like what went into that?
I had always wanted that. I'd always dreamed of the day when I didn't have to force feed myself tons of food.
Right.
I always say I was lucky because I had to work to be that heavy. Um, Food constantly, 3 giant meals a day, 3 massive protein shakes
Yep.
in between, snacking constantly. I think when I got to Chicago and there was just incredible, steakhouses and Italian restaurants, it just like, took another
Yeah.
turn. But when I came out of football, I just had this opportunity, and it felt very natural for me to start my healing process through my body.
Hmm.
I found my way back to yoga. I started experimenting with ketogenic diet. And before I left Chicago, I was training with this guy who put me on the keto program. And that was a really powerful first step in giving me some tools. I'd always been very conscious of food, grew up with very holistically minded parents. Food is medicine, drink plenty of water, exercise, fundamentals of
Right.
physical well-being and mental and emotional well-being. But to really start to get scientific about, how I was approaching my food was a tremendous step forward for me in leveling up my own awareness. So I started with a ketogenic diet, and that helped me trim a lot of fat. And I started experimenting with intermittent fasting. And that was really just the beginning of getting my body back together. I'd had a handful of really bad injuries, back injury, shoulder injury, surgeries, infection in the disc in my back.
Hmm.
It left me basically paralyzed from the waist down for 3.5 months.
Jeez.
Um, and when I knew that football was over after that last year in Chicago, I just didn't have it in me anymore. And I got to start over. I got to take everything I knew. I had been steeped world-class strength and conditioning training for the last 15 years of my life. My mother is a master psychosomatic bodywork healer, yoga therapist. My dad is really a lifetime intuitive athlete. And so I got to experiment and play and see what would happen when I got super disciplined with this way of eating. And ketogenic worked really well for me for about 5 years. I went down significantly, like kept dropping down, then I'd plateau, then I dropped down, then I plateau, then I dropped down. Whittled down to probably about 270 over a course of about a year, year and a half, maybe 2 years, and slowly but surely moved into a more, I mean, really the big change happened when I started doing hot yoga 2 years ago. And I
Yeah.
realized I couldn't do ketogenic anymore. It was just, I was too burned out. My adrenals were fucking burned out. And I'd be keto. And then on the weekends, I'd go way off the wagon and eat like pizzas and cartons of ice cream and all this stuff. And I just feel like shit, you know?
Yeah.
And I started looking at carnivore and experimenting with that, and then started adding in fruit and honey, and that was just this game changer for me. Totally transformed my life and everything I had been doing. I suffer from an autoimmune that hasn't been diagnosed. It runs in my family, and it's a thyroid dysfunction essentially.
Yep.
And so food is critical for me. If I eat gluten, if I eat wheat, if I eat too much pasta, bread, anything like that, I go into a fucking black depression. My joints hurt. I feel like I'm in a complete brain fog. All of that. It's so clear. It's
Yeah.
directly linked. I have tingling in my hands and feet.
Wow.
I'm in catastrophic physical disarray. When I eat anything outside the lines of basically whole foods, meat, fruits, vegetables, potatoes, rice is okay, you know? And so I just really started experimenting with that. And frankly, man, I feel like I'm in the best shape of my life right now. Best shape I've ever been in. I'm probably 245, 250. I eat primarily animal based. I eat a lot of meat, bison, grass-fed beef. I eat fish. I eat some chicken here and there. And then I eat a lot of fruit.
Yeah.
And really supplement with potatoes and rice. And that's it.
Yeah.
And
That's
I
all
have
you
energy.
need, man.
I feel fucking as strong and powerful and energized as I've ever felt in my life. And adrenally, I feel the most balanced I've ever felt. You know, because when your adrenals get blown out because you're running on too much, you don't have any glycogen. So your body starts to produce more cortisol because you feel stressed, and you're holding on to more belly fat. You know, you're holding on to that thin layer of fat because your body's in this fight or flight state. It's in a survival mode. But when you give it enough glycogen, essentially what I found, I get leaner. I'm like, how is it? Like, for instance, a couple weeks ago, I was sick, and I basically just took like 10 days off, which I haven't done. I can't even remember when.
Yeah.
Didn't do anything, just walked around, did some stretching, did my breath work, but that was it. And I came out of that looking in the mirror going, how do I look more lean and ripped than I've ever felt? And what I boil it down to is my adrenals are replenished. And so being in that rest and recover phase, my body's not holding on to body fat like it did in the past.
Hmm.
And I'm just eating meat, I'm eating fruit, I'm eating, just keep it very simple on the food level. Good oils. I stay away from the seed oils and the bullshit.
Yep.
And it's just, food is medicine, man. It's a really important thing. And I've looked at it as such for a long time. Lost sight of that during my football career for a number of reasons. I had to eat to live, to work. I was in a lot of pain. So food functioned as comfort and fuel.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know how that is.
Absolutely.
I saw a great post by this guy. I think his name's Jay Hodgkins. I think his Instagram is Fit by Jay. Sorry, Luna.
Luna wants to be on the pod.
Yeah, she does. But he was talking about, he played linebacker at Oregon and was saying how he was 235, a complete monster on the field, but a train wreck physically. He was eating fried foods and he was in pain constantly.
Yeah.
You know that feeling, because he was just so inflamed, but he was like strong and explosive on paper, on film. And he's like, now I'm 205. I eat super clean. I recover faster. I'm not in pain anymore, ever, basically. You know, I mean, yes, you deal with the aches and the pains, but you know, there's a certain level when you're in that world that resonated with me on a very deep level of just constantly being in pain because you're so inflamed.
Yeah.
Because you're eating just like everything in sight.
Anything and everything.
You know.
Yeah, it's a huge difference. I think for anyone listening to this, you know, if you're coming out of being an athlete, especially football, or maybe you have to put on weight, or you're trying to, you know, keep a certain level of physique, you know, to be competitive on the field, it was such a difference for me. And then anyone listening to this that isn't an athlete, you know, Eben mentioned it earlier, the body is the first place to start your transformation. It'll teach you so many things, and food is so important to that. I mean,
big time.
It's everything. It affects
Yeah.
how you think, how you sleep, how you feel, you know, your love life, you know, your testosterone, all of those things. And for me too, you mentioned it, rest and recovery has been something that I've tried to hone in on as well. All similar to you, go to the gym and be in there for 3 hours and look up and be like, oh shit, I got to get back to work.
Yeah, dude.
But but I love it. Like, that's something that I love to do. But I know that after, you know, a certain amount of time in the gym, you go from producing testosterone to cortisol, because you put your body in that stress state, and it's almost a little bit counterproductive depending on how you're training at that point. So it's like understanding things like that and the way that your body works, and that going back to that awareness too, it's just so important. But it'll be the catalyst for so much change for anyone that just starts down that physical journey too.
1000%, dude. How old are you, Mason?
I'm 26, 27 October.
Yeah, totally. Are you a Libra or a Scorpio?
I'm a Libra.
Nice, dude. Me too. When's your birthday?
17th.
I'm the 14th.
Let's go.
Nice, dude.
I knew it. I knew there had to be something there.
You're in that. I know where you are. I've been there.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Just keep listening, you know, because it's fun. Like, you get in the weight room and I'll be in there and I'll just think to myself, I could let me hit that machine. Let me do that machine. And then you look up, like you said, and you're 3 hours in to an intended one hour workout.
Yeah, my buddies would always make fun of me because I would just go in there and kind of like, I'd have days where I'd say, okay, I want to hit this or I want to hit that.
Right.
But a lot of times I'd go in there and he's like, do you not have a plan today? I'm like, my plan's to work out this body part. He's like, are you kidding me, dude? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to hit this, hit that. He's like, dude, I couldn't do it. But I like going in there and just feeling stuff out and obviously trying new techniques and things.
Me too, dude.
Just messing around.
I saw a great post by Mark Bell the other day, and he said exactly that, because I've done that same thing. I don't go in there with any sort of structure or plan. I want to hit upper body or lower body. I want to focus on chest or back, or, you know, definitely going to get the arms in, do some deadlifts, got to hit squats today, whatever it is, and then do stuff.
Yeah, it's a playground.
Yeah, dude. And I heard Mark Bell, he did this incredible post, and he said, I never go into the gym with a plan. I just do what I fucking want to do. That's the way to do it, though, man. Because once again, Mason, we make our body our identity. We make the thing, because it should just be for enjoyment. One of the most profound things, I was thinking about this morning, that was said in a yoga class by the woman who I did teacher training with, who's a teacher and owner of the studio I teach and take at. And she said, do it because you love your body, not because you hate your body. That fucking blew my mind. That was said 2 weeks ago, and that's definitely been lingering in my sphere. because for a long time going into the gym was because I hated my body. Now I get to go in there because I fucking love my body. And what is that? What's the difference in those two workouts?
Yeah.
You know?
That's big. That's big.
And
So
that
like,
doesn't mean that you don't go and get a fucking great workout in and you don't
right.
develop your body to the nth degree. You know?
It's the perspective though. The perspective,
Yeah.
that one little head
Shift.
tilt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. The little shift. And it's always, man, you're just like little shifts constantly. And then one day you look back, you're a fucking different human being.
Yeah. I think it was Inky Johnson that I stole this from, but it's that perspective drives performance. And I'm
That's
like,
interesting.
ooh, that one's always, those are little things here and there that you hear that really stick with you. And
Yeah.
that's one that always kind of lingers in my head. I'm like, perspective drives performance. Because if you go into something, you're like, man, I hate this. Like, I don't want to do
Oh,
this.
yeah.
Or like,
Yeah.
versus, all right, this is an opportunity for me to get better, network, get better with my body. Like this tough time I'm about to go through is going to show me so many lessons, or like this failure, that I feel like I'm having right now is going to allow me to help someone else not go through what I'm going through. Like just those tiny little tweaks that you can make mentally just changes it all.
Absolutely.
We talked, I know we're running short on time here, but we did talk a little bit about attachments and ambition and being present. And in today's day and age, I call it the industrialization of the human mind, where technology is everywhere, right? And it's basically, people say we're not AI yet. To me, we're already AI because, our phones are attached to our hips at all times, and we run life through these things that are technology, and they are a gift, but they can also be something that's detrimental to us. So in this technological world, like how do we use it to our advantage, but always remember to get back to our roots? You talked about nature earlier, and that's something for me that makes me feel so much more grounded. Like, what does that balance look like to you? Is there a balance? How do we find that balance? I mean, what does that look like?
Yeah, dude, I love that. I've used that same exact term to describe whatever this thing is that we're in, the industrialization of the human mind. I love that. And it's true. If we're not careful, I think that on the surface, this technology is immensely important and powerful. For instance, us getting to have this conversation through this
Absolutely.
technology, it's amazing. And then you're going to put it on a platform that's distributed, and literally anybody on the planet can access it.
So cool.
Amazing.
It's so cool.
Amazing. We have social media that gives people as close to in-person, firsthand contact with individuals as is possible without being in the flesh with a person.
Right.
To some degree. And that gets curated in a certain way, especially as you sort of move through the echelons of influencer shit.
Right.
I think that I see a lot of hope. It had initially been a little bit scary peering into the void of the future of humans and our relationship with technology. But I see a lot of hope and a lot of light with young people in their relationship to it, and really using it as this tool of connection and learning how to not make their entire life about it.
Yeah.
My generation, I'm going to be 35 in October. I feel as though my grouping of people got to experience the evolution of technology as I was growing up.
Right.
When I was a kid, it was VHS tapes and fucking, I remember when Blu-ray and
Blu-ray, yeah, DVDs and
I mean, it was first DVDs, and the other thing was there was another thing that was competing with Blu-rays. It was a bigger laser disc.
remember
And
when
laser disc didn't make it. And it became DVDs, and then it became Blu-rays, and then there were CDs and fucking audio tapes and
yeah,
cassette tapes, and I was, and the internet fucking blew up, and then we had that, and this whole thing. It's all felt like it's happened and grown as I've grown and come into my adulthood.
yeah,
And it continues to grow and become another thing. And we're talking about VR and AR and all these different things. And some people are saying we're all going to have the glasses on, and it's going to be constantly augmented reality. And I don't know about you, but I've put an Oculus on, and that thing is not fucking fun for more than 2 minutes.
yeah.
It's dizzying. It's completely unsustainable. And it made me realize, because it's all facsimile, it's all a replica of reality, which we still have access to. And we're going to be drawn to, and I see it more and more. People are more drawn to realness, to truth, to nature, to connection, to all this stuff. It's nice to have it in the technological realm and to have access to it and to have these tools to use, but that's all they are. It's a tool. It's a hammer. You know, it's a drill. It's a screwdriver. It's your laptop. It's your cell phone.
Right.
This is all a fantastic tool for us to do all sorts of amazing things. However, it's not, once again, the answer that we've tried to create that's already here with us innately.
Yeah.
Which is getting quiet, going for a walk, connecting with your loved ones, having a conversation, you know. So I think that the more, as we move forward, whatever that means, the more we can recognize it as just a tool and immerse ourselves in things that fill our heart and soul with light and joy and love, which are things that are super simple: getting exercise, gathering with your friends in person, breathing deep, taking time to be still and quiet. You know, those things are all going to become more and more important. You know, just like the work that I do with this company, essentially being the wellness consultant for this company. And they're not the only ones. For instance, a guy I had on my podcast, the Eben Flow, back in 2020 even, who's a transcendental meditation master, around the time that I got the job as this wellness consultant for this company I work for, he did a post where he was just signed on as the director of mindfulness for Amazon.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought to myself, wow, isn't that really fascinating that a company, a mega Fortune 500 company like Amazon, sees the necessity and the importance of having a mindfulness director for their employees. Like, this is something that is truly profound, because it's recognizing these simple necessities of human experience, of getting quiet, of tuning into the self, getting yourself unplugged from the matrix for a moment. And even that, you would say, is Amazon as being the mothership of the matrix. Yeah. They're doing it for their employees. And who knows to what extent. I'm not trying to defend Amazon, but it's an interesting landmark in what's happening on a very high corporate level.
Yeah. I feel like one of the good things that did come out of COVID was more so awareness of that importance of mindfulness, importance of connection, family, burnout, being able to connect on a deeper level, and health in general. So I hope we continue to see that. There's one question that I always love to ask as the last question, and that is, what is your definition of success?
After I tell you I've lost all ambition.
Yeah.
My definition of success is living a life full of joy and love and perpetuating that in every relationship and every corner of my life.
Beautiful.
That's a successful life.
It is. It is indeed. Eben, it's been an absolute pleasure. Where can everybody find you? Where can they find the book? At this point, they're going to want more podcast. Give all the plugs.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. My website has everything, I'm pretty sure, ebenbritton.com, but my biggest channel, I suppose, would be Instagram at EDS That's Ed's Britton. Yes, my name is Eben Britton. I don't know, somehow when I was getting that name, it's my 3 middle initials, Eben Daniel Smith Britton. So EDS Britton. That's also on TikTok. It might just be Eben Britton, but you can find me on there. All the stuff I'm doing, you buy my book there. Twitter is the same. That's it. Lots of love, man. I appreciate you so much. Thank you, dude.
Appreciate you guys. Go check out more from Eben on his channels. Go check out the book, Eben Flow, and he is the host of the Eben Flow podcast as well. It's been an absolute honor. Appreciate you so much for this time. And thank you guys for tuning in to another week. You know the drill. Your cost of admission is sending this to someone who you think it could benefit, and then acting on one of these millions of topics that we discussed today. So thank you all for tuning in. Eben, thank you, sir, for coming on, and we'll see you all next week.